Welcome to Figure Eight, where we feature inspiring stories of women entrepreneurs who have grown their businesses to 7 and 8 figures revenue. If you're in the mix of growing a bigger business, these stories are for you. Join us as we explore where the tough spots are, how to overcome them, and how to prepare yourself for the next portion of the climb. I'm your host, Julie Ellis. I'm an author, entrepreneur, and a growth and leadership coach who co-founded, grew, and exited an 8-figure business. This led me to exploring why some women achieve great things. And that led to my book, Big Gorgeous Goals. Let's explore the systems, processes, and people that help us grow our businesses to new heights. If you're interested in growing your business, this podcast will help. Now, let's get going. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Figure Eight. Today, I am joined by Jennifer Devine. Jennifer is working in the field of accounting, and she has a business that she purchased in 2011, an accounting and technology solutions business. Before that, she worked as a controller for a commercial real estate development firm and had lots of interesting and diverse experience. And today we're going to dive into all kinds of things about accounting and the things that you need and how she's grown her own business using teams from abroad as well as teams from locally. And I'm really excited to talk to you today. Thanks, Jennifer, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
Yeah. So how did you end up, in the commercial real estate side of accounting?
Well, actually, it's kind of a funny story, actually. I had been looking for a new position, and I always like to tell people this just in general because I was on vacation with my family and but I was looking for a job. I had a recruiter and she'd reached out to me on vacation and said, "Oh, I got this great job interview for you. I want you to set it up. It's going to be this day and this time." And then I didn't hear from her again. And then I had the decision to make. Do I go show up for this interview that I don't really know that I for sure have because she didn't confirm it? Or do I not show up to an interview I might have? So I really grappled with that. So I showed up for an interview I didn't have. And I got the job. So there you go. They interviewed me anyways, and
Oh
I
my
ended
gosh,
up
I
getting the
love
job.
it. So you showed up and they were like, looked through the calendar and were like, no.
Yeah, and I said, "Well, I'm really sorry I couldn't get a hold of the recruiter." And I didn't want to not show up for an interview I had. And she's like, "That's okay. I'll go ahead and interview."
And then you got the job.
I got the job. And so I was the controller for their development they had in Cabo San Lucas. They were building very beautiful villas up the side of a mountain. And that's how I got there.
That's fantastic. And kind of interesting. Feels kind of like, they're doing kind of an interesting project. And
Yep.
yep, there's a little bit of excitement in that. And so did you stay working for them for a long time?
Yes, I worked there for I think 11 years in total. They were like a family to me. One of my best friends still works there, and I just went to her son's wedding this weekend. So that tells you a lot, but it was really hard to leave there. But I had gotten a little bit bored. I'd sort of figured it all out, had it really organized, and it was just kind of time to do something new. But yeah, I was there a really long time.
Yep. And so how did you get started in what you're doing right now? Did you
So
buy the
I did.
business right away or did you start building up some things on your own first?
No, so that's also very interesting. So we had a software accounting software called Solomon that we utilized at the company I work for. And we had this girl that came and she consulted on the software. That's all she did. And she had many times had talked to me about working for her. And I was just like, I had asked her, like, I have very young kids. I just can't just jump, right? So she wouldn't offer me like a real solution, like, oh, I'd give you so much X amount of hours a week or like anything like that. So I was like, I can't do that. And then one day she walked in and she said, "Well, would you be interested in buying my business?" And I thought, I don't know, maybe, because I'm in a position where I could take a risk. at least a calculated risk, right? So all in all, I did end up buying her business, and that business was just consulting on that software. And what I realized while I was pursuing that was that I didn't love the aspect of um, the projects. Like you didn't necessarily know what was coming next, and I only had 10 to 12 clients, and I was just not sure what tomorrow would bring. So at that point I started building up what I would consider more bookkeeping business. My sister came to work for me, and she sort of started in that realm, and we kind of grew it from there. So really what I bought and what it is today is completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think often happens when you buy a business. It's, you're trying to find your product and your market fit as somebody new, and you also want to take it on a growth path.
Yep.
So sometimes that means we end up somewhere different.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, so I bought it, not Devine Consulting because that's obviously my name, but I bought another company name, and unfortunately, she decided to take some of my clients back, and so that was sort of a pivotal moment in business where I said, "What are we going to do next?" And so for people out there, I mean, yes, we could go after her. Yes, I could do those things, but it really wasn't going to advance me further by living in the past of it. So we started working with some other softwares, and I just chose a different route with it
Yeah.
then.
I think that really lands with me because I mean, when we started our business, we had a competitor who came on the market pretty fast after us. And, big chunks of our website were just straight up copied over. And we, did get her to change that. But it is this piece of like, how much time do you want to spend like fighting something versus figuring out how to really start growing your business and taking it in a new direction, because there's only so much of you to give, right? And
Absolutely.
where you want to
Absolutely.
put your energy and where you want to end up.
Well, and that was what's so hard, right? There was also a software that I knew at the time that was it's like nobody uses it anymore. Just to give you an example, like nobody's buying it. It's maybe some people still have it, but it's very, very rare. Like it was going to go away, so it wasn't going to do me a lot of good to focus my effort on that. My effort was better focused on something that was new and innovative.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's how you sort of started branching out. You were selling
Yep.
other softwares and doing other things. And where did things go from there?
So we really actually we went to this conference, my sister and I, and she still works with me. We went to this conference for this new software, and we literally were like deers in headlights, right? Like we're gonna implement this, and I'm gonna have to like we are not ready for this. And we ended up meeting some gentlemen that were also at the conference that had a firm that sold software, and through that we partnered up. So if we did have an opportunity to sell the software, we would sell it through them, and we still work with them to today. But we became what they call accounting partners, and so we took it in a different direction, and that sort of really kickstarted us being stopping being just bookkeepers and becoming more outsourced accountants, and it gave us this opportunity to level up our game too. And so it's funny how the things will shape you and turn you in a different direction, but it all has worked out fabulously. I mean, obviously bumps in the road, that's all I mean.
So obviously, and we can talk about some of those,
Yep.
but thinking about like when you think about the shift you made from being a bookkeeping firm to being outsourced accounting, what were some of the different things you were doing for clients in as an outsourced accountant?
Well, interestingly enough, I think we were always providing that level of service, so we just weren't calling it that either. Because I came from a background in this real estate development, right, where I was providing that service, and as I moved forward in my career, I thought I'm really doing what I was doing there, just for others.
Right. So now you're giving it, so it's more advice giving and more planning as opposed to just
So yeah, and it depends, but there's also a little bit more of like, I think people view I would describe bookkeepers like they're gonna get the transactions in, they're gonna pay the bills, things are gonna get done. But if you want to use your financials to tell a story about your business or to be able to learn from your business, you need to take it to another level. And a bookkeeper isn't gonna necessarily do that for you. You might get lucky. There are some great bookkeepers who I don't want to, but like we were going to provide, yes, and we can take it level up and then help you project and stuff like that. But just sometimes, clients need to have an understanding of what really and how they're doing in their business. And that's where we are helping to provide for them.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. And I think that, like, from the side of, so, you're an entrepreneur and also an accountant,
Yeah.
but for entrepreneurs who are not accountants, it's one of the most difficult places to find the kind of quality help and advice that people really need when they're growing businesses.
Yes. And a lot of times people don't always find value in it. They don't think there's value in it, right? It's just something they have to get done so they can pay their taxes,
Right.
right?
I got to file the forms and write my check,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, how have you found the sort of leveling up that's happened, the kind of changes you've had to make as you've grown this business?
So I think it's been such an interesting ride. You mentioned earlier in regards to outsourcing some employees overseas, and we tried that like a few years ago, and I would say we failed pretty miserably, right? It just didn't work. I don't know if it. I a lot of times think the company we were working with overseas was part of the problem. We didn't have like a set person. It's like we went through three people, and I'm like, we can't keep retraining someone, right? Like that's such a big part of business is like the losing and the coming and going of people per se, right? Like you're always retraining, and it's like you just never can get to that next step if you're just keep retraining and retraining. So it's like finding that sweet spot of getting those people who are going to stick with you to help level you up, which is one of my struggles.
And, like, managing a
hmm
virtual team across a lot of time zones is
Well, and
definitely
what's really worked
challenging.
for us from that perspective is they work on our time zone. So it's nighttime for them, but they work during our hours. So they're still like, we brought them in as part of the team together. So we try to, we have one thing that's worked really well for us is we have a daily meeting. We all get together and we all have a conversation once a day. And, because we want them to feel like part of the team, like even though they're remote. And it helps that we have four of them there and not just one.
Yes, and so the first time you did this, it did not work out very well.
Right.
What do you feel like is different this time? Because now you have 4 people on your
Yes.
team that are working overseas.
Well, one, I think the company we worked with, they had a developed plan and how you go about it. I had been in an organization with a bunch of other accountants who had used this company before. And, some of them had been successful with it, but I learned from their mistakes, other people's mistakes who maybe hadn't been successful. So I listened to all of those things and we went into it in a specific direction and how we were going to go about it. And I think that helped. We were more prepared. And we really knew we wanted to at least have two of them so that they had each other. And so we didn't get two at first. We did get one person, but she's still with us and she's been working out fabulously, and gotten promoted. And so we were then able to add another one in, and so that's been great. And they are there, and we have flown over and seen them. So I think that's important too, is really getting to know them. And just from going to see them has really leveled them up too. They seem less hesitant to ask the questions.
Well, and it is one of the things, though, right, about, like, the accounting industry as a whole, is that there's a certain amount of, I don't know if commoditization is the right word, but, like, back to your kind of comments about not everybody sees value in it. They see it as a function they need to file their paperwork and that sort of thing. And so, like, getting the right price for value and having the right team to be able to deliver that is definitely got to be a challenge.
Well, it is. And the hard part is like what people would want to pay us if all my employees worked here. Like we wouldn't find them. Like it's hard. That's a difficult place to be.
Yeah. And so now, how do you feel like you have evolved as a leader over so it's 2011 that you bought that business, and here
Yes.
we are. You're kind of 15 years
Almost.
almost. Are we, we're getting so close. So tell me about what that's been like for you as the leader.
Well, from the beginning, in the beginning, I was doing all of the work, right? Like
It
even
was you.
or even with my sister here,
You
she
were the leader and the one employee.
yeah. And then I added my sister, right? And thankfully she's still with me today, but like I was still doing a lot of the work. Like I was really in the depths of it. And so it's like it was this really hard balance of how do I get out there and find more clients, but still get all of the work done. And you can't stop doing marketing and networking and doing those things to get the work done. So it was a constant juggle, right? And over time that has lessened because been able to put myself in a place where most of the time I don't have to do the client work, um, and I'm able to maybe really work on the business and do work, focus on marketing or sales or things that help the business or, you know, employee training or other things that are important for them and not just work focused on working on the clients. And I think that's really important as you grow.
Yeah, and what was it like? I mean, you hired your sister, but then how did you start really, really extracting yourself?
If I'm being honest with you, I don't even know how it happened. I just knew it needed to happen. I think, I hired, so she works with me and she's done a lot of work and she's had a lot of growth as well. But then at one point I did hire an accounting director and that really helped me at least ease out of some of it. Unfortunately, I'm in a position right now where I've had to jump back in some ways, but I'm not a full-time client person, right? Even now. So that still helps.
Yes. Well, and I mean, I think that is the thing about entrepreneurship is the buck is stopping on your desk. And
Yes.
ultimately, if things are if you're struggling because you have some turnover, then it can end up back with you.
Yes, and that's the part now that I'm working on. How does
Yeah. Well, and that's where you're like, I am not the right person for this.
It's really funny. Like, well, I mean, it's funny. I think, I've been talking to some people. It's like there's this aspect of my job that I'm not proficient in, right? Like there's the marketing aspect where I have typically people who help me with social and do all those things. I'm not proficient, but I'm super proficient with accounting, so I can jump in and it comes really naturally to me. So if I have to do something, I'd rather do that.
Yes, but it is that it leaves you though as an entrepreneur feeling a bit vulnerable, right? Because there are functions that you need to have that you cannot fill in for.
That's yes, very, very true. Like I'm just not good at it. I'm not a creative person. I mean, I can be creative from an accounting aspect, but I'm not a creative in like designing something that looks pretty or I'm bad with words. I'm great with numbers. Like if I have to write something, it's going to take me forever to write.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, and I mean, I think though you've used your creativity to look at circumstances to build your business, like all the different ways that the creativity has played, right?
Yes, there's that. There's different types of creativity, I would say, right? And I'm good in some respects. I have great ideas. At least I think I do.
Well, and
But I'll have all these ideas, but I'm really good with having someone who helps me really push those out there and get them implemented. I can come up with them, but am I necessarily the best person to put them out in the world? Not
yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, and how do you build like you know, bring the ideas and figure out which ones you should implement and which ones to kind of leave behind, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what's kind of next? You've kind of stabilized now, right? I mean, trying to mitigate turnover. We talked about how
Right,
that's
right, of course.
obviously a big challenge. And one that never ends, right? And it's also hard because I think as a small business, you can't really necessarily offer somebody like lifetime career path kind of jobs.
Well, no, interesting. I always tell people here though, it's like it's this job is kind of what you make of it, and you can help with like you don't have to sell to help with growth. You can help with growth by providing a really good service to the clients that we do have, and and leveling up and being curious. Like that's my new term for this year. Is like be curious, ask questions, try new things. Like, I mean, ChatGPT still is relatively new and people have dabbled in it, but the other day I was trying to train myself. What else can we use it for? I hear these things people are doing and we got to figure something out. We have to stay up to date
Yes.
with these things.
Well, and with AI, like the thing that I think with that is we all need to figure out how we're going to use it, because if we just say, well, I'm just going to wait, it's moving so fast that it'll just leapfrog right
Yes.
over us.
Absolutely. We don't have to be the first to do everything, but we certainly don't want to be the last.
Well, and even, I mean, I've heard people talking about using AI for bookkeeping,
Mhm.
which is kind of interesting
And
because
there's
obviously you will still need human intervention for things like you talk about, like interpretation of things and how you work with the rules to present things. Like those kinds of things are probably human critical thinking things. But
but
those transactions that are just happening, like that's a really
yes.
interesting idea.
And those are already, a little inherent in a lot of the accounting systems already where you can set things up and they will just flow and happen. It's not quite there yet in that respect, because it gets it wrong lots of times. But we have to adapt. And being an accountant is a lot less of debits and credits as it used to be, and a lot more on understanding the technology and how it works.
Yes. Well, and yeah, and I guess that's something for like what should, an entrepreneur who wants to hire somebody like you, a company like yours, like what is it that they should look for?
Well, they really should. I tell this to my clients, like, we want to be part of your team. It's not like, yes, we're outsourced, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't think of us when you have a question about something or need something additional, right? It's hard. It's a hard space sometimes because we're providing a specific service for what you're paying for, but that doesn't mean we can't add on to that or help you with something additional when it comes along. You know, but if somebody's just your bookkeeper or they don't pick up the phone when you call them, like those are sure signs that it's not really working.
Yeah, you want to have that, you want to have a relationship, a partnership
Yes,
to get
absolutely.
you
Yes.
where you need
Great
to
way to put
go.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with having now the team that you're building, um are you fully remote, or do you have an office in the
So we do have an office. We're one day at home right now, and I've dabbled in what do we do next because our lease is coming up. And what makes the most sense? It's interesting because I can see both sides of everything, but I also watch and see how people learn, and I do think being around others and overhearing things does play into learning. And I hope that people will recognize that because it's really hard. People are going to be a lot more hesitant to message you or ask you a question over the computer. Now, they're not saying not everybody will or they will, but it has to have more intention. I can't just overhear somebody talking, which I do, and go, "Oh, no, 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 no. That's not no, no, no. Let me tell you how to do that." Like, so I don't have the opportunity to correct a mistake before it happens because I just hear something. But
Yeah, or I think also the idea, like I do think in accounting, especially, like how will people understand how to think beyond a contained set of rules if they never actually have any coaching or any
yeah,
see anybody doing that?
it's hard. Like, so I think with more remote, it has to be more intense. You have to have a systematic way to see if people are getting things done, and it's harder. It's harder. I think it's harder to
Yeah, oh
manage
yes.
than
Without
it is
question,
in
it's harder
person.
to manage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but it is interesting because I've had another somebody I know talk to me about accountants who are going into audit practices and how, with the pandemic they stopped having kind of the audit room mentality where everybody would gather, and that they found that their young accountants were not learning as much.
I think that's very, very true. And then also you add on to the fact that people are changing jobs more frequently than they used to. I don't think they're really developing that base level of knowledge that we got the opportunity to do when we were younger. Like I just think it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's a different just a different job market and a different
Mhm.
world in that way, I think. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And so what kind of culture are you trying to build in terms of how you're bringing young people up and like education and trying to hang on to and give them opportunities, the people that
You
you have?
know, we are trying to build a culture here. Like we are small, so it feels more like a family. I want people to feel like they're at home here, that it's not just a job they enjoy. Like if you hate going to your job, right? Who wants to go? But that they enjoy it. But then, I am really focused on how do we train people, because you can tell people to watch videos all day, but that doesn't really train them on how to actually do different things. So once a month we have a monthly meeting, and I do some form of a training exercise in that meeting for them, just more focused on things we do and how we do it too, so that they can kind of learn that aspect of it. Also, like including people on meetings that they may not have had opportunities to be part of, just even if it's like you don't have to say anything, just listen so you can learn from being on those meetings with clients.
All the different ways of bringing people along.
Yes, yes. And also, like, it's a skill to learn how to deal with different types of people. People have different personalities. And, something I always tell people when you come here is like everybody communicates in different ways, right? Like some people love to be texted, some people hate it, some people like emails, some people like phone calls. It's like, how are you going to work with this particular client to get the information you need? If you solely rely on emails, you may never get it.
Yep. No, that's true. And so, yeah, it's that piece of meeting people where they are at in terms of how
Yes.
they can learn.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what will be next for you with your business?
Well, for me and the part that I want to do, I'm really trying to, get out there more, be a thought leader, speak at some conferences, but that also with the intent that that can also help grow the business, because you make more connections. We can help people. We do a lot of construction companies. How do we get out there and be in front of them and help them with their growth? People come to me, well, you're going to give me project reporting. Of course I can, but you need to understand how to use the system, because you're going to get more value out of logging in and getting that information than me sending you a report.
Yes. Well, and it is interesting. We live in this age of an endless amount of data is at our fingertips.
Yes.
And so, how do we figure out what we really need to help us,
Hmm.
you know, see the numbers, make the decisions, move forward, those kind of pieces?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and how much of what you do when you bring clients on is sort of educating them as well? I mean, that's one example, right? Teaching them how to log in and pull the information themselves, for sure.
Absolutely. And then, but also what we bring to the table is like, here's the process, is the way we figured out the best way to do them, right? So educating them on how to get through those processes, because so much of the time they're just kind of getting it done. Like there's like I've heard this term a lot. Like they're like the ducks on the top of their like calm, but underneath they're just kind of their feet are just a moving, right?
Obviously.
So they're just like they're putting out fires, and instead of like, this is how we need to go about the process in a systematic way. And if you do your part and I do my part, it runs so seamless.
Yeah, and that ultimately it will help them make better decisions, make
Yep.
faster decisions, be able to really see what's happening.
Well, and keep the calm. I mean, I think it's very interesting, and I've told some people this. It's like there when I say there's noise, it's sometimes not true noise. It's just a lot of commotion of things going on that maybe doesn't need to be there. And if you put in a process, or you put in certain things, or the right people in the right places, the the noise level drops, and the commotion ceases, and you can just kind of move through your business and how you need to do it without having this havoc coming going on.
Right. Right. And is that do you see that a lot?
Well, I've seen it in my own business, to be honest with you. We're down people right now, and it's quieter. It's just things are just kind of working. And it seemed like we were short people before
Right. And
because they're
yet
just
here you are actually short people and you can see things coming together and working.
exactly. And it's so you and myself included, you need to be able to hone in what's really causing that. And I didn't even realize that that was happening. And so it's like, how do you hone into what the real thing behind it is so you can fix that?
Yeah. Well,
Because
and I think too, like, it's also when you're kind of like on those growth edges where, the way you did things before is not working anymore and you need to like simplify or automate
yep.
or, communicate differently, like all of those kind of hallmark pieces.
Well, and I feel like, for me, it was like I didn't really dig into trying to figure out maybe what the real problem was. I was just kind of letting other people try to handle it. And when I actually had to get in there and see what was going on, my eyes were opened. And I wish I had kind of figured that out earlier so I could have fixed some of the problems and maybe prevented some turnover. So I learned from that too. I think we're always learning. Nobody's perfect.
Oh, no. And that's one thing about growing any kind of business, running a business, is there's always learning opportunities.
Well, and I mean, it's like I tell my kids, you don't succeed until you
Yeah,
fail. It's true.
it's true.
Sometimes you have to fail to learn.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to stumble in order for you to like be able to, get back to running again.
Yep,
So,
for sure.
yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Well, I'll be very interested to see where you go. This has been a great conversation, and I think it's great because I do think people are afraid of financials, and so it's nice to see somebody who views it as a real partnership.
Yes, I do. Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, Julie.
Thanks, Jennifer. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you won't miss any episodes. Figure 8 isn't just a podcast. It's a way of seeing the big, gorgeous goals of women entrepreneurs coming to life. If you're interested in learning more, you can find my book, Big Gorgeous Goals, on Amazon anywhere you might live. For more about my growth and leadership training programs, visit www.julieellis.ca to see how we might work together. Read my blog or sign up to get your free diagnostic. Are you ready for growth? Once again, that's www.julieellis.ca. When we work together, we all win. See you again soon for another episode of Figure 8.